Hignett corner, beyond Bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stewart, just outside the penalty area, clips it central for David Dunn. David Dunn equalises! It just had to be! Dax corner and it goes, glance towards goal! And Rovers have taken the lead! And Charlie Mulgrew has scored his 14th of the season. It may well be the goal that sends Rovers back into the Championship.
Good evening, Rovers fans, and welcome to another edition of On the Other Side from Rovers Chat. I'm Ryan Hildred, here as usual for our weekly live stream On the Other Side. It was a superb battling performance full of buckets of character last time out against Brentford. And next up, it's Bristol City in Mowbray's trilogy of games, as he's described them, as we visit Ashton Gate at Bristol City. I'm delighted, as ever, to be joined by an opposition fan, and I've got Paul from the Exiled Robin blog. How are you today, Paul?
Not bad, thank you, Ryan. Not bad, and yourself?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm coping well, I must say.
Good.
But before we start, Paul, it's just a reminder to all of our Rovers fans that we are proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below. Thanks once again to 6yardsout.com for their very kind sponsorship of the Rovers Chat site this season. So Rovers fans, as ever, please do interact with Paul and myself this evening in the comments box. If you've got any questions about Rovers, any questions about Bristol City, any questions about the game itself, please do interact with us in the comments box as usual. If you are not following us on Twitter, we are Rovers_chat on Twitter. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Rovers Chat. We have surpassed the 800 subscribers now. We are motoring towards 900. So if you are not subscribed, please subscribe. We are hoping for 1,000 subscribers, certainly early in the new year. So if you are not subscribed, help us towards that target if you can. So Paul, let's kick off with the match preview then, if we can. Tony Mowbray has described our 3 games this week as a trilogy. He's really built them up a little bit. And that's really to show where we are in the playoff and promotion reckoning. And he's described them as that trilogy due to the quality of the opposition that we're facing. So we had Brentford on Saturday. We've got Bristol City tomorrow. And then we've got Norwich after Bristol City. These are all sides who are seasoned playoff contenders for the last few years. Is that the expectation level amongst Robins fans now, that that's where Bristol City should be?
Yeah, I think certainly in the mix. I don't think there's a total expectation that we must finish top 6 or it's a failure of a season. But, we have been in and around. We've often and almost always been in the top 6 come into February, March time in the season and fallen away. So we've clearly got the ability to an extent to be up there. We obviously, just fallen away the last few seasons. But no, I think with change manager in the summer, there's a bit of an understanding it might be a year of don't like the word transition, but it might be a year of settling down, a year of maybe a steadier, more mid-table kind of position. But we started brightly, we started well, and we're once again right in the mix.
Yeah, you are. And before we come on to your manager now, in Lee Johnson, you had a manager there who was there for 4.5 years and was one of the longest serving managers in English football in its entirety, and longer than Mowbray at Rovers, who we've now got as one of the longest serving. From the outside, he seemed like a really well-liked manager, having played for you too. What happened with that dismissal and where did it go wrong for Lee Johnson?
That's an interesting one, I guess. So as a player, he was a bit Marmite. He came in when his dad was manager, so instantly had a bit of a thing about him that fans were sort of concerned about. He did a lot of sideways passing. He's one of these players who kept the ball ticking over in midfield very nicely. And if you like that sort of player, you see the value they add. if you don't like that sort of player and you want to see them busting into tackles and darting forward to score goals, you want your man. So as a player who's a bit, I'd say a bit Marmite, I think, to be honest, that affected him from day one in the job. I think right from the start, people were not sure why we'd appointed him, thinking it was only because of his dad. He was mates with the chairman, so he got the gig. Yeah, and all of that partly true, maybe. But yeah, he was in for 4 years and did a progressively good job. Saved us from a troubling position at bottom of the league in the first season. Built him up the second season. We had a fantastic year, obviously, where we were challenging right at the top. Up with when Wolves went up, we were, I remember playing them on the day before New Year's Eve, and we were 1-0 up against them and going 3 points behind them at the top of the table. And we just beat Man United in the League Cup, and we're playing Man City in the semi-finals 2 weeks later, and it all seemed absolutely superb. And yeah, it didn't happen. We fell away, unfortunately. Obviously, we lost to Man City, all those good games. We fell away a bit in the league, and we didn't quite make it. But I think at that point, that team really had the quality to push on. I think we just got tired that season. Since then, I think we've just struggled to hold on to our good players. We're a very stated ambition of a club is to be sustainable. And if that means buying Adam Webster off Ipswich for 3 million one summer and selling him for 20 million to Brighton the next summer, difficult to argue with. You can't turn down that sort of money, but it does mean you need to be signing players every summer and try and rebuild your style. And we've had a bit of that. So lots and lots of factors. Ultimately, we progressed year on year for 4 years under Lee Johnson until last season. We were, I can't remember exactly, at 10th, 8th, 7th. So we were progressing, we were getting closer. We're not a million miles away, but it was just felt, I think, that he'd started to run out of ideas a bit. He went on long losing runs, long winless runs, which he didn't ever seem to be able to find a way out of. I think a large element of it, the last 12 months of football, had become quite attritional. So we were actually quite good, very good at winning away games 1-0. We've done that quite a lot on the road in the last 18 months. And that obviously keeps you at the table. But we very, very rarely score more than 2 goals, especially, and even at home. And we've struggled to break teams down. And I think that's, possibly ultimately what paid for him, as well as the results, was actually that the home form in particular was quite dull a lot of last season, and I think it's one thing when you're in the stadium and you can have a beer with your mates and enjoy the events, but I think when you came back after lockdown and we were sitting at home watching our TVs, and it just seemed, the atmosphere around the place just seemed really flat, and really he wasn't able to get us going, and it was just showing signs again of that lack of ability to get out of a rut. He didn't seem to quite have it in him at the end.
Yeah, and you were our first game after lockdown, weren't you, at Ewood Park when we all came out and had that first game. So so before the season, I did see a lot of disappointment with the appointment of Dean Holden, who your manager is now, of course. And I saw the likes of
Ryan, sorry, it sounds really crackly. I can't hear what you're saying at all there.
Can you hear me now?
It's crackly.
Still crackly. Let's go like this. How's that?
It's a little bit crackly, but I can just about hear.
How about now?
No, you're like a Dalek to me. I don't know whether it's just to me or on the.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
That's much better.
I'm going to do it like that with no headphones. There we go. Sorry, sorry, Paul. So before the season, I saw a lot of disappointment with the appointment of Dean Holden. I saw names like Chris Hughton linked, for example. For Rovers fans, could you just talk to us a little bit about Dean Holden first and his association to the club? Because I don't think many people knew him before he was appointed.
No, I mean, he's a typically gritty northern 90s footballer in a way. He's a hard-nosed defender. He used to have his fair share of red cards. I think he played up in Manchester. He's a Manchester boy originally, a Man United fan. He used to travel home and away with them when he was a kid, and his dad and brother still does. So he came down with Lee Johnson about 6 months after he started, I think. So we've been with us about 4 years. Who is assistant to Lee Johnson. Proper football man, really down to earth, tells the truth, is honest, tells the fans what it is rather than what he thinks they want to hear, I think, and he understands the fans' point of view. So I think certainly from that point of view, the fans are taken quite warmly to him and quite appreciate that. Lee Johnson, whether you liked him or didn't, you couldn't argue he was the master of an interview and a spin and a cliche. He's going to be all over TV when he's not in a job, because he's great at those little takeaway cliches and those one-liners. But that's not Dean Holden's thing at all. It's very much matter of fact. So I think they appreciate that. seems to want to do things quite steadily and consistently. Again, I think Johnson was all about innovation, trying new things. He'd regularly change formation and line up 3 times in a match just to sort of tweak things and get on top of the opposition. Holden came in with a sort of stated ambition of saying, I want to play 3-5-2. We've got the players to do that. We've got a system that works for us. I mean, it works at this level. And if players are playing well, we're going to keep them in. So, yeah, I think you can't argue with those philosophies. You know, if that's his philosophy, that's how he wants to do it. The results will show themselves. And we had a good start. You know, I think a better start than most expected. Certainly the first 4, we won all 4. Had a bit of a winless run then. And it's been a bit up and down since. But, you know, we are still 8th. We're, you know, 3rd as of a week ago. And he's doing a reasonable job, given we got a lot of injuries, which have forced him to change his philosophy slightly. But yeah, I think he's a sound bloke. Everyone wished him luck. The issue in the summer was more, I think we took almost 6 weeks to appoint him and had Houghton almost flash before our eyes. And, you know, that was more, I think, you know, if we were going to appoint the bloke who's sitting in the chair next to Johnson, why don't we do it straight away and just get it sorted rather than wait 6 weeks until just before the start of the season and talk about promotion winning managers and that sort of thing rather than take so long. But the club reckon they had a process and they followed the process, and that's what happened. But that was a lot of a discontent, I think, in the summer. But he's clearly come in to do a job. Like most clubs, we've got budget limitations this year, especially with the lack of income. Our stadium offsets a lot of our football losses. We've got a great stadium with conference facilities and events, and obviously haven't happened at all this year. So big hit on a budget too.
Yeah, and I could probably, if that was Rovers, actually, if it did take 6 weeks to appoint a number 2, I can understand actually why that, you know, annoyance would be there. So, yeah, it has been a pretty solid start, hasn't it, as you've said there. Have you seen a big change from how Lee Johnson played, or has it been a carry forward? You know, has he managed to stamp his own authority on his team?
I think certainly in the early couple of months we did. I think we saw a bit more progressive football. We were passing it forward more quickly. We're still playing a mainly counter-attacking game, but we seem to be getting more players in the box. I think under Johnson, we tended to counter-attack, but too often it was only just the 2 forwards left up there. The midfield weren't running on past them, so you're a bit stuck there. And we now get 4 or 5 players forward. We get our midfielders in behind the forwards, which we never really did under Johnson very often. Like Jamie Passon, Callum O'Dowd running from midfield, you know, causing issues. But it has just sort of stalled a bit the last 4 or 5 weeks. We've done okay results-wise, but we've struggled to create much. We've not scored more than 1 very often at all recently. But we're keeping clean sheets at the other end, so it's not, obviously not disastrous. But so we have got quite a lot of injuries in some positions, and I think that's obviously limiting what we can do. And again, like with all clubs, players are tiring and maybe not able to do what they want to be doing all the time with a number of games they're playing.
And if we look at the results in a bit of detail, it's 8 wins, 3 draws, 5 losses. You sat on 27 points, and that's 2 points and 1 place above Rovers.
Really sorry, Ryan. It's gone all crackly again. It must be an exception somehow.
Got all crackly again. Let's try it this way round. Here we go. Let's have a try. How's that?
No better. It's like it's almost intermittent, isn't it? Whatever. I don't know what it is.
I can hear you perfectly, which is so you can't hear me. How about now? Does that work? Oh, can you hear me?
Is that any better?
Can you hear me?
No, it's still really crackly. Sorry, it's just not working.
Let's have another try. We're just going to wait for Paul to leave and rejoin us. Here we go. Let's have... Can you hear us, Paul?
Right.
Can you hear me now?
Thought I'd leave and come back and see if that worked.
Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear anything at all.
Can you hear me now? How about now, Paul?
No, sorry. I literally can't hear anything at all now.
Just everyone's got my face on the stream now. If anyone's got any comments in the comments box to keep me company, then please do hit me with some comments. Yeah, that's what I thought. FM works. It was coming across fine for me as well.
So that's a little bit cracky, but it's gone a bit better now.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. That's better again. Yeah.
Let's try it with the headphones.
Weird.
How about now?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
That's better. That's good.
Yeah, that's clear now. It's clear. Let's go for it.
There you go, Rovers fans. We've got gremlins on the line between where I am and down to Paul. So we will carry on in earnest. So, Paul, what I was saying, so after you were speaking about Dean Holden there, was just looking at your results in a bit more detail. So it's 8 wins, 3 draws, 5 losses, and you're sat on 27 points, 2 points and 1 place above Rovers. We actually come into this game 7 games unbeaten on a fairly decent run of form, and we've got 3 wins in the last 4. What's your recent form been like?
Very up and down, actually, recently. So we had a spell in November of 4 clean sheets in a row, I think it was, and we won a couple of those 1-0. But it's just been a bit of a struggle the last 7 or 8 games. But we've won 4 of them, so it's a weird one. We sort of feel like we're struggling. We went to Cardiff and scored in the second minute, and then had backs to the wall to win 1-0. We drew 0-0 against Watford, which was a reasonable performance. Won at QPR, but after being absolutely battered for 45 minutes in the first half. So you sort of see the way this is going a little bit. But but then again, disappointing last time out home to Birmingham. And I mean, they're a bit of a bogey team for us. They've beaten us every time they played for the last 4 or 5 times at home. But we're just struggling to get going as a team. I think we lack a lot of creativity. Probably the only player you'd call really, truly creative in our side is Jamie Patterson. And he's actually been injured the last 2 games. So as much as we've got some good runners who have come into that position, they're not creative and skillful in the same way.
Yeah.
Chris Martin's gone off a little bit up front in terms of being the target. He was really linking up play really nicely at the start of the season and bringing the midfield and the wide men into play, and he's sort of gone off the boil a little bit. It's just lacking a little bit. And it's interesting because the intention I said of Dean Holden to sort of keep to roughly the same players if he can and keep the same formation has slightly gone out the window the last 4 or 5 weeks with injuries and players out of form. You're suddenly chopping and changing around the front line a bit, and the shape and the formation. And we went 4-4-2 on. I'll lose track of the days. Was it Saturday? I think it was Saturday afternoon for the first time all season. It just a second half, and it didn't work. But he's just clearly obviously trying to kickstart something. I guess trying to get something going.
There's a strange reassurance about what you've said there, Paul. I think the Brentford fan who I spoke to on Saturday, I think out of the last 6 or 7 shows, is the only one that said that they've not really got any injuries in their squad. Right. Everyone else, without fail, and Rovers included, I think injuries are decimating squads across the Championship.
Yeah.
So I've got a weird reassurance about you saying that you're carrying injuries as well, because we've actually discussed it on our show. Is it our training methods, or whatever? But actually, I think all clubs are carrying it, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just obviously strange. A lot of games, a lot of intensity around it. Players obviously played long into the summer after a strange spell and had a short turnaround. It looks to be affecting things, definitely, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And in your games this season, then, have you had any standout results or performances, particularly at home, where I think Ashton Gate can be a bit of a fortress for you, can't it?
Well, that's not actually the opposite, to be honest. We're top in the league away from home, and we have been around there for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Our form at home has struggled. So we struggle to break teams down. So we struggle to get more than the 1 goal. So often that means obviously you're struggling to win. I guess our best performance. What looked at the time a very good win away at Forest, although their form obviously not necessarily franked that so much.
They beat us.
Yes, that's right.
At home.
I think we beat Derby quite nicely at home. We did well, actually, really well. I thought at Bournemouth we lost 1-0 in the end. They really stepped it up second half, but obviously a very good side. But no outstanding performance. And Dean Holden was on on Radio 5 actually in the last week talking about the fact we haven't actually been able to take our foot off the pedal at any point. We haven't been 2 goals up in the game to be able to make those substitutions with 20 minutes to go that just help ease players out if you want to rest key players. So they've all been tight for wins. But yes, we are still winning games by the odd goal, and whilst you keep doing that, you kept reasonably happy as a fan, aren't you?
That's it. It's points that matter. So you just got to keep chipping away and getting the points, haven't you? So that is the important thing. So if we move on to the game itself then, Paul, what sort of formation do Bristol City play? You've spoken about injuries, but with who you've got available tomorrow, what formation are you expecting, and how are you expecting Bristol City to approach this game against Rovers, who, to be fair to us, we can be pretty potent away from home. So what are you expecting from Holden?
So I got a feeling we played a lot of 3-5-2 at the start of the season. We switched to 4 at the back in the last few games, but I think the way it hasn't really worked a couple of times recently, I think we might switch back again tomorrow to 3 at the back potentially. We brought in Adrian Mariappa from Watford on as a free agent a couple of weeks ago to cover some of the injuries. So I think he might be able to slot in at right centre back and play alongside Thomas Callas and Viner there. We've got good wing backs in Jack Hunt and Jay Da Silva, who are good at getting forward, probably less solid defensively. That enables us to then play a 3 in midfield, which we typically do. Probably Chris Brunt, ex-Sheffield Wednesday, or West Brom, or Tariq Bakinson, who's a young player who's come in this season, sort of playing in the middle. We got reasonable sort of options all over. It's just getting that right formation, the right players in the right place. It's we played a bit of 3-5-2, a bit of 4-3-3, a bit of 4-1, sort of 3-2. So it was really a big mixture, but I think we'll go back to 3-5-2 tomorrow, personally.
And is it an offensive 3-5-2 where your wing backs get forward, or more defensive?
They do get forward. I think what we're missing, I said, we've got that one player in that sort of number 8/10 role, which is Jamie Patterson. And if he's not fit, we just struggle to have someone who can sit in that hole. So there has been some talk of like Naki Wells to drop back in there. Whether he can do that or not, I don't know. But we probably lack that player who has got that complete freedom in the midfield to just go and link up play between the forwards and the midfield, and we rely probably more on hard work and running and effort than guile and skill, unfortunately. But it can be quite attacking. It has proven out this season. We've early on, especially on the counter attack, we can get wing backs get forward. The 2 forwards are up there. A couple of midfielders get forwards. We can get 4, 5, 6 men up quite quickly. Just remains to be seen if we can do that. Without Patterson and without 1 or 2 of the other options in midfield.
Sure. And we've got a combination of long and short-term injuries, and you've mentioned the likes of Jamie Patterson and others there. So who are your main and key injury doubts going into the game tomorrow?
Well, we've got a few long-term. So we signed 2 players from Fulham on loan, Alfie Mawson and Stephen Sessegnon, who played a combined match and a half between them, I think, before they succumbed to long-term injuries. We've got... I'm trying to think. You lose track of them, don't you? 2 midfielders who we signed Joe Williams from Wigan in this summer, who hasn't kicked a ball for us on the pitch yet. He's been injured.
Wow.
Liam Walsh was player of the season on loan at Coventry last season, who was our sort of bright hope for the summer. And he hasn't kicked a ball for us this season. So we've got 5 or 6 players out. 1 or 2 started to come back recently, but we've got 5 or 6 players out, which just adapts. Means we have to adapt how we play a little bit. I'd say Walsh and Patterson would be the 2 you think could do something in that midfield. We haven't really got much other option. We're lacking at right. We've only got 1 right wing back because Sessegnon was out injured. So Jack Hunt's played a lot of minutes already, and that's a demanding role to be playing that. So hence partly I think we switched to the 4 because Mariappa's come in and played right back. I'm not sure he's a wing back though. He's more of a defensive fullback. So a few of those players missing. And we had Tariq Bakinson, as I said earlier, he's come in as a real promising prospect in the central midfield this season. Spent a lot of seasons out on loan at different places. And then he had a migraine about 6 weeks ago, which turned into COVID, which turned into not being available for 5 weeks. So he's sort of edging his way back into the team as well. So we've had a fair few incidents and a fair few issues. But we are starting to, apart from those 3 or 4 long-term injuries, starting to hopefully find the squad back together a bit again.
I mean, fair play to Holden, dealing with that and in his first role to be where you are. I mean, that's quite impressive, I must say, particularly with the likes of Jamie Patterson and others out. He's got previous against Rovers, so we know all about him.
Yeah. And I've got Andy Wyman, actually. So Andy, probably our almost most solid dependable pro. He covers, like a Duracell bunny who covers about 50 miles a game, and he's never been injured in like 6 years and did his cruciates early in the season is out for the season as well. So yeah, another long-term one. Big blow as a regular starter.
Oof. It's funny you mentioned Vyman, because my next question was going to be, you've got quite a few what I call experienced season championship performers. Naki Wells, who you've mentioned, Chris Martin you've mentioned, Jamie Patterson you've mentioned, Andreas Vyman you've mentioned. So who are going to be the danger men against Rovers tomorrow?
So I think Wells seems to be, he's had a funny season. He scored, I think he's our top scorer, but he sort of not seems like he's really been on the boil. He's not really been on it, or looking too dangerous. But he's an obvious one in terms of pure goal scoring. I think the one who's really come through though this year for us is Antoine Semenyo, a youngster who was on loan at Newport a couple of years ago. He got linked with Chelsea. We rapidly brought him back from Newport and got him involved in the first team squad, and he struggled a bit, to be honest, for 18 months. But he's really come in and looked friendly. He's young, he's quick, he's strong. He runs. He starts out wide and runs at defenders, which they don't like. Takes the ball past them, and he's actually been at the heart of a lot of our best attacking moves, certainly in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks. So he's certainly a name you might not have heard of, which is worth looking out for. I think in terms of form, I guess for two in form really for us at the moment are certainly in terms of attacking wise, Callum O'Dowda in midfield and Adam Naj, who are Hungarian midfield. They've just sort of come in. Probably most fans would expect them to go out on loan in August. He was struggling to sort of be a part of the squad. The injuries, 3 key ones in midfield, means they're suddenly playing every week and have come in and actually done a decent job and are busy. They're very busy and hardworking. I mean, they're not going to set the world on fire or dribble around 4 players, but they'll run all day, mop up everything, intercept as much as they can, and are very busy in the midfield.
I think that's always what I've associated with Bristol City these last few years. You seem to have had that real good blend of young, exciting midfielders. You had Brownhill at one stage, didn't you? And we've mentioned Patterson and O'Dowda. I think that's something I really do associate with you. So, yeah, certainly we're going to have to be on it in that central midfield area if you've got those buzzing around in there and putting us under pressure. So if you had an area of weakness tomorrow for Rovers to exploit, where's it going to be, particularly with some of those injuries you're talking about?
Yeah, I think we can be weak defensively at fullback. I think both Hunt and De Silva, if they play, are decent going forward, but struggle a bit defensively. Jay De Silva especially, we played at, he's a great prospect, England under 21 left back. We played at QPR a couple of weeks ago and he was absolutely torn apart in the first half by Oise Samuel. He just destroyed him and he was taken off at half time. It was that bad. So young player. It'd be interesting to see if he gets a comeback. So I think that's an area certainly. I must admit, I think you've got a strong midfield, haven't you? I think this year. I think with Bradley Johnson always plays a good game against us. You got Harvey Elliott. I don't know if Elliott's playing midfield or more forward, but he's great young talent
in the front line for us. On the right hand side, he's been playing.
But you got 3 or 4 now who seem to always play reasonably well against us. So I think it'll be interesting to see how Holden looks to counterback. You'll have seen it, of course, for the last 3 seasons when Johnson, especially, I think, has played well against us most of the time. It'd be interesting to see how he tries to counteract that and do something with Naj or O'Dowda to maybe stop him being so effective. Yeah,
we are absolutely stacked to the rafters with midfielders, and it's a good job because of our injury list this season. Yeah. So, we've got quite a few in there, and there's a big debate in the Rovers fans at the moment about what our strongest midfield is. You could argue that 2 out of the 3 that would be playing in there aren't available at the moment, Lewis Travis and Bradley Dack. So
Dack's still injured, is he?
Still injured, yeah. It's looking like FA Cup 3rd round is when he's going to be back. That's what Mowbray's put out in the press today to say that Doncaster's going to be the game where he's back. So if we do flip our focus then, Paul, and just your views on Rovers, how do you think we've started? Where do you think we should be aiming for this season? Where do you think we'll come this season based on what you've seen?
I must admit, I think you got a strong squad. I think the signing of Elliott was a really strong one. You had some good players there already. You've got I think a fairly solid defence. Adam Armstrong up front is, a very, very decent option at this level for a striker. I say you've got those options in the midfield and attacking lines to mix it up a little bit. And Lewis Holtby's another player who seems to do well whenever we play you, and it's a good option for you. I think you're strong. I think you're a strong side. And I know I listened to Michelle Owen, who does sports and a bit of Radio 5, and I know she's seen you 3 or 4 times this season. She's saying she's surprised you're almost as low as you were. I think you've picked up a bit of the last obviously couple, but you look better than you were to be lower table, and definitely should be contending with the squad you've got. I think you're my view on the division is I think you've got 3 Premier League relegated teams who are going to be right up there. Possibly Swansea and Brentford, possibly just behind them or in there. And then it's any 1 or 2 of 10 teams probably who are in the rest of the mix. And ourselves, Cardiff, QPR, yourselves are all in that group, aren't we? And it just depends who gets to run a game together, who has a bit of luck with injuries, who has a bit of luck in matches, and as to who actually gets there at the end.
That's absolutely right. And I think you've just got to time your run well. Rovers love a run. Mowbray's had a series of, unbeaten runs or losing runs or not winning a game types of runs. And we're on one now. And before that run, it was 4 defeats in 5. So, we love a run ourselves.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised that Michelle Owen picked that up about Rovers, because even in some of the games we've lost this season, Watford away, Bournemouth away, we've played pretty well and created a lot of chances. And I know certainly Watford were really impressed with Rovers, because we like to keep the ball and we like to pop it about. So not surprised with that. So no, thanks for that, Paul. So in terms of this is a part of the show where I always love to find a link between the clubs, Paul, and sometimes it's easy. So against Brentford, they've got our previous goalkeeper, so that one was nice and easy. But I must admit, the Rovers Bristol City links are a bit tenuous, I'm afraid. So I'm going to have to ask you really quickly about 3 of them, if I can. So the only genuine link that we've got now, so a player that used to play for Rovers that currently plays, inverted commas, for Bristol City, is Casey Palmer, who you've now got loaned out to Swansea. He was a bit hit and miss for us and flattered to deceive. He's obviously out on loan to Swansea now. So has he flattered to deceive at Bristol City as well?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. He's, as you all know, he's the sort of player where there's a portion of the fan base who think he's not been given a chance and should be starting every match, and is the only option we've got from a bit of flair point of view. But there's another big part of the fan base who see him give the ball away too often and not work hard enough and not do it often enough. And I think that's exactly where he's been. He's got incredible skill and talent and flair. Ironically, right now, I've not been a huge fan of his at all, because for me, he gives the ball away in and around the halfway line far too often and puts you under pressure as a midfielder. But having said all I've just said about Jamie Patterson being our only real option at number 8, sort of that number 8-10 role, Casey Palmer would probably be absolutely ideal for us right now, ironically. And the sort of player we really need in there. It'd be good to have another chance. But he is. He's just a very highly skilled player who's not quite settled down anywhere, or not quite done it on a consistent enough basis at any club he's been at, I don't think. And I don't think, I may be wrong, I don't think he's playing regularly for Swansea. I think he's an option for
I don't think he is, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
a shame.
It is, and I think he was quite unlucky at Rovers as well, because obviously Bradley Dack is the main man. So, you're not ousting Bradley Dack out of our side in that number 10 position. So he's potentially moving into a position that he's a bit more uncomfortable with. So, but he came with that reputation.
That's it's a bit of a non-link, but we were linked with Bradley Dack for about 5 consecutive transfer windows and never actually got around to signing him. So we were all quite disappointed when he eventually went up to you guys, because we were all sort of hoping he would join us.
Well, he had a very shaky start, Bradley Dack. I must admit, he was in a bit of bother and out nightclubbing and stuff, and then he got his head down, and he's just been absolutely sensational for us and a real talisman, and we love him to bits. So that's good. So the second link is the other way round, Paul. Derek Williams is a player that had 3 years at Bristol City, and he's been a great servant for Rovers. He got our player of the season in the season that we were relegated. And he may be back for the game tomorrow after injury. He's a bit touch and go. But he's been a real loyal servant for us and been down to League One with us and come back. And, he's been really good this season when he's played. What's your view on Williams, and what sort of player was he like at Bristol City?
I'd say exactly the same, to be honest. I mean, he joined us in League One. He was part of our League One title-winning season. So, I mean, we had an amazing year. Yeah, we won the league at Cantor. We got 99 points. We won the FLT as well. So, every player in that side and in that squad is lauded, and rightly so, for what he did. And he was a big part of that. He played left, not typically left of a 3 at the back, 3 centre backs. Tried us for next season. I think what happened was Lee Johnson came in and switched to 4 at back, and never quite sure then whether his best position was left back or centre back. And I think there was a feeling amongst Johnson and the staff certainly that Williams was probably not quite good enough to be one of 2 centre backs, and probably not quite pacey and skillful enough to be a bombing left back. So I think when the opportunity came to move him out, he was just one of those players that was moved along. But no, I think fans appreciated him. He wasn't a standout player by any means. I mean, he played alongside Aidan Flint, who scored 15 goals that promotion season. So he was never going to be a standout. But no, solid, dependable. Did a great job for us. Well liked, and certainly always get a good reception. When he came back to Bristol.
Yeah, he's been through a bit of a journey with us actually as well. Like he came in and, as I say, player of the season, and had a real good season for us. Even in the season we went down to League One, and was really good at left back for us. And then I think his form maybe dipped. I think he had an injury, and then he knocked on Mowbray's door and just said, "I want to be considered as a centre back now." And I think it was one of them that it took us a while to see how good he was at centre back. But actually, this season we've seen it because we had Adarabioyo on loan last season from Man City. He was really good, and there was a gap there in our centre-back pairing next to Lenihan, and Williams came in, and early on in this season was fantastic. And I think now, we are begging for him to come back, particularly with the injury to Scott Wharton that we've had. So, no, he's been through a good journey, and I think well valued by our fan base now, but it might have taken us all a while to value him in that sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
But we do like him. The other link I'm not going to ask you about because you've mentioned he's only played one game, but my very, very tedious link was Steven Sessegnon, who we were linked with in the summer when we were looking for left back. We eventually went for Barry Douglas on loan from Leeds, but you've told me he's only played one game, so I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you about him. So, Paul, we have reached the part of the show where I am going to ask you for your prediction on the game, and I will also give mine. So just tell us how you think the game's going to go and what your score prediction is.
I find it so hard with City because we're so unpredictable. But yeah, I think most teams are in the middle of this league. Given we're at home, we aren't as good at home. I think I will probably go for a fairly tight 1-1 draw. Okay,
I'm sensing a bit of underconfidence there. So Rovers fans,
if we were away, I'd be calling a 2-1 win. But yeah, at home we're not in any sort of form at all. So
sounds quite similar to us. We do struggle at Ewood Park sometimes, particularly sides that set up, to frustrate and sit back, which isn't us. Rovers fans listening in or watching in, please do hit us with your score predictions, and we will go through them before the end of the show. Based on everything you've told me, Paul, the fact that you are carrying some injuries, the fact that you've got attacking fullbacks and you can leave yourself exposed in those wide areas, as you've said, and it's a bit of a weakness. The fact that we are good away from home in particular, I'm going to go for a 2-1 Rovers victory, I think. I think there's a few things you've said tonight which has given me some confidence. Mark Whittle is first out of the traps with a 1-1 draw. He's siding with you there, Paul. FM Works is going 3-1 Rovers. FM Works has also said that Naki Wells worries him, hot and cold, but when he's hot, he's destroying. And yeah, Naki Wells has scored against us before, Paul. So we'll just wait for some of these other predictions to come through. Dizzy Thumbs, 2-0 Rovers. Byram Oates, Bristol City 1, Rovers 2. So I think there's a bit of confidence. You've given us some confidence, Paul.
Yeah, that's right. Which can use a false sense of security. It's fine.
I was going to say, yeah.
I actually did the same on a Derby show a couple of weeks ago. We had 10 COVID incidents in camp, and they just appointed Rooney as caretaker manager. And I thought, perfect time to play as you'll win comfortably. And we beat him 1-0, so always a chance. It's just fake confidence.
We've got other ones coming through. Alexander Haben, 2-1 Rovers. Zach Warner, 2-1 Rovers. So you have filled us with a lot of confidence. I must say my prediction is on the basis that Williams or Lenihan will be available for this game. So either Williams is back from injury or we're successful in overturning Lenihan's ban, which I've not seen the news of yet. Someone in the comments might tell me if that's been overturned. But my prediction's on the basis of having that defence. There could be an opportunity for Bristol City if we've got that makeshift defence again, like we ended up with at Brentford, because we had Lenihan sent off on Saturday, Paul. So was a bit, very makeshift for us. And to come away with a 2-2 draw, we were all very proud of. So I don't think there are any other predictions. So there we go. You have lulled us into that false sense of security, Paul. So if it is a Bristol City win tomorrow, you can chuckle away in Bristol at the false sense of security. That's it. But thank you for joining us, Paul. We always love having the opposition fans on these shows, and really sorry for the technology breakdown between the two of us. I'm pleased we sorted it in the end. And Rovers fans, thanks for sticking with us as well. You know, it was 2 or 3 minutes of me and Paul struggling to communicate with each other there, but we got there in the end. We are professional and we will motor through it, and we got there, and we've had a good insight into Bristol City. So thank you all for watching. If you are not following us on Twitter, Rovers fans, it is Rovers_chat on Twitter. And as I said earlier, we are now motoring towards 900 subscribers on YouTube. So if you are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. You can stay up to date with all of our content. This is actually day 8 of the 12 days of Rovers Chat. So this is day number 8 to tick off on your mini advent calendar there. Hit that subscribe button and you'll see what's available on day 9, 10, 11 and 12. And obviously going forward, all of our latest content. We will end the show by obviously finishing with our proud sponsors, 6yardsout.com. But Paul, I just want to thank you for joining us tonight, and have a good evening, and enjoy the game tomorrow.
Thank you, Ryan. Same to you.
Thanks, Paul. Bye, Rovers fans. The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link